Happy Thanksgiving. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jen Wolf. That's the Hall of Famer Chris Carter. That is Nick Wright on a very special Thursday. We are so glad you are with us. We are so thankful to be here today. Happy Thanksgiving, Nick Wright. That is really sweet.
Good to see you guys.
Air 5, you won't do it. Oh, you did it. Must be because it's Thanksgiving. We have a big show on this Thanksgiving Day, so sit back, get your fixins ready, because here we go. The Saints could be on upset alert against the Falcons tonight. Big night in the NBA. LeBron back in Cleveland, and the Warriors lose yet again. But where else would we start but for the Cowboys? The Dallas Cowboys kicking off one of the best football days of the year, the one that combines Thanksgiving and football. And today it's good football. The Cowboys hosting the Colt McCoys. That's Washington, in a battle for supremacy in the NFC East. Dallas looking to make it 3 wins in a row as they push for a playoff spot at 5-5. Here is Dallas quarterback Dak Prescott on the team's mindset entering today's game.
Our backs are against the wall, regardless. We're not worried about what we've done up to this point. It's about just moving forward, and I think that's allowed us to get on this 2-game winning streak and get the record back to 500 is because we know our backs are against the walls. Every game matters. Every game is a must-win. Nothing changes this week.
All right, CC, we have been talking about this game all week, the implications, what it means for both teams. Now that it is here today, what do you think is the key to this matchup?
Well, I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible, because these games on Thanksgiving, where you have the short recovery time, a lot of it you're based on the intel of your scouting department, so you're hoping that they give you a great game plan, because you're not going to be able to walk through plays. You're not going to be able to rehearse a lot. So when the guys get on the field, a lot of things, especially the first quarter, it can be very, very sloppy. Guys aren't used to the speed, the intensity. But as the game goes on, you'll start to see that the continuity and everything of the game will get on par with the NFL game. It's just because it's just very, very hard to be able to do. Just imagine Washington traveling over the holidays with the weather and everything, going to Dallas. Now, Dallas playing at home, they have a huge advantage on Thanksgiving. But the keys to this game is we got to force both quarterbacks to try to be superstars. Dallas, with their great defense, they got to try to force Colt McCoy, be able to take them out of that running game they want with Adrian Peterson, where they can be methodical, give him 20 to 25 touches, which sets up their play action pass. But they got to try to set Colt up to be a hero, where they can put 8 in the box, force them to be able to throw the ball outside, and there's going to be around 4 to 6 plays where Colt McCoy, he's going to be out of the pocket. He's either going to be scrambling. Can the Dallas Cowboys get him on the ground before he converts, either throwing the football or converting that into a pass down the field? Because he's going to try to use his athleticism. As far as Washington's concerned, they are a big physical football team, and they got to force Dak Prescott. We know the numbers. If can he throw for over 300 yards? How many touches Zeke get? They have to force Dak to try to throw the football by putting a lot of people, forcing Ezekiel Elliott to be minimized as his effect on the game. I believe those are the keys to both of these teams to be able to marry each other, put the pressure on the opposing quarterback.
A lot of people, understandably, are focused on Alex Smith's injury and Colt McCoy coming into the starting lineup for Washington. The injuries they suffered a few weeks ago make the Alex Smith injury all that more detrimental to their chances. The 3 games prior to their offensive line injuries, losing both guards, having a right tackle injured but in the lineup, left tackle been in and out of the lineup. The 3 games previous to that, Adrian Peterson was averaging 22 carries, $115 on the ground, 5 yards per carry. The 3 games since those offensive line injuries, they had Alex Smith for 2.5 of those games, 15 carries a game, 45 yards a game, 3 yards per carry.
But did they win those games?
They won one of those games. Okay. They beat the Bucs 16-3 in a game. The Bucs were 0 for 5 in the red zone. They have not been able to run the ball the way they want to since some of those big people got injured, which is why Colt McCoy has to play similarly to how he played 4 years ago when he got a win against Dallas on national television. On the flip side for Washington, they have spent consecutive first-round picks on defensive linemen from the University of Alabama, Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne. And those 2 guys, have to be monsters in their matchups today to slow down Zeke, so it can be about Dak beating him.
And Washington's done a good job in their scouting department realizing what they're going to have to do in that division. Carson Wentz there in Philadelphia, we're going to have to be able to get to him. We know the Giants, they try to be a physical football team. They like to be able to run the football. And we knew in Dallas they were going to have Dak and Zeke there. So Washington has done a tremendous job of scouting their division and realizing what do we need to do to win. And they went to the football factory in the University of Alabama and got 2 of their stellar players.
Is there something, though, about playing a game on Thanksgiving Day, national stage, everyone watching, obviously there's so much involved, that negates all the little details of it because it's such a big stage, and maybe this is all about like emotion and heart, and you're playing on a day where you know your families are home watching?
Well, Chris has obviously played multiple Thanksgiving games, so I will defer to him on that. But I do want to, before you go, mention something Coach Mangini said, which is I had been keying on home teams on Thursdays this year were 9-2. The only home teams to lose were the bad Giants and the awful Cardinals. And he brought up he thinks that Thanksgiving, that almost doesn't apply because typically during an NFL season, your Thursday game is the game you're like, oh, just got to get through it. But he said that's not how guys feel on Thanksgiving because the whole world is watching. The NBA doesn't even play today. They give the day to the NFL, and C's got experience in those circumstances.
Jenna, you make a good point because a lot of it, because you have such a short time to prepare, it's not X's and O's. It's not as if we're going to be able to put in some new schemes. We're going to be able to add to some stuff we were doing. No, because the short week, at the end of the day, typically it's about guys performing. It's simply one guy raises up and has a great performance. That's been my experience. Yes, it's methodical. Yes, your body's sore. You don't feel the way. But the adrenaline, knowing that it is a national audience, that does help. So ultimately, it's just about making plays. And ultimately, that becomes more important because you don't have time to build scheme for the opposition.
How different is it, because you've played in both these circumstances, on Thanksgiving against a divisional opponent playing Detroit and on Thanksgiving against a non-divisional opponent playing Dallas? Both of the early Thanksgiving games are divisional games. Lions, Bears, and the one we're talking about here, Washington and Dallas. When you have familiarity with the team, played them earlier in the year, for the Washington and Dallas played a few weeks ago, Detroit and Chicago played 2 weeks ago, play them twice every year. How much does that negate the lack of prep time because it's a divisional opponent?
Yeah, it can negate the lack of prep time, but you have to be careful that you don't think you know them as well as you know Dallas. So you have to spend the same amount of time, the same amount of energy. Does it help from your start? Because say on that Monday, you do have a head start on the opposition, but let you know when you look to your left and right, the opposition has a head start on you too. So I think that part probably negates itself. Playing Dallas, typically you're going to be a team coming from the NFC. We've played them. We were in the NFC, so we were more familiar with them. So not as familiar as Detroit, but Dallas. People are familiar with Dallas because they're in such the national spotlight all the time.
And here's the other thing about this game. Jason Garrett 2.5 weeks ago was fired. I mean, he wasn't fired, but he was fired.
All but gone.
They've won 2 critical road games since then, and now he has a chance, the Cowboys and Jason Garrett have a chance today to change the narrative of their season. But if they lose, and all of a sudden, if they lose, they have to go 4-1 the rest of the way to have a shot at the postseason. And after this week, they've got New Orleans. So 4-1 the rest of the way, if that's what you got to do with a loss, you're in rough shape. So all the goodwill and all the positive momentum Dallas has going for them, with the loss, they're 2 games back and don't have the tiebreaker. So this is the definition of a swing game for the Cowboys season.
I didn't look it up exactly, but I remember Jason Garrett when you said his name. He had a tremendous game as a backup on Monday Night Football. I think it was 1994. He's trying to prevent Colt McCoy from kind of doing the same thing that he did, being the unsung hero coming off the bench and leading to a Thanksgiving Day. It should be a good game.
It should. You mentioned Coach Mangini. He will be out here. We'll talk about this game, so much more throughout this Thanksgiving Day. But coming up, let's talk some basketball. How the Golden State Warriors hit rock bottom after their 4th straight loss. That's next on First.